Most welcome, dear children, as you are studying the chapter Reproduction in Plants, and you studied the structure of flower. You see here the picture of flower that showing the parts, that is petals. These are the petals. Okay, between the petals you will find that the central portion, that is containing the pistil like this, and in this way, that is stamen. Okay, so stamen is the part of that male part of the flower. Pistil is the female part of the flower. Okay, now in your book that was given the pistil in this way. I am just drawing the picture showing to you that in this way, you see here. So pistil has what? Three parts: ovary, style and stigma. Okay, now after that you will see here, that is the male part of the flower. So what are the male part of the flower? That is stamen. And in this stamen you will find there are two parts, that is anther. This one is anther and this thread like is filament. Okay, these anther has some granules, that is pollen grains. So what happened if the anther, that is from the filament, that burst, you see here, then what will happen? That pollen grain will come out, and this is filament. So here in this flower you will find that this black structure that is given to you, this is anther, and between the anther, that is pistil. So here is showing to you, that is pollination. What is the topic? Pollination. It means, what is pollination? The transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma. Anther to the stigma in the flower is known as pollination. And this picture is in your book. You see here two columns of this. First is self pollination. What is the meaning of self? Means own. So transfer of pollen grains from anther. This is anther. So anther to stigma of the same flower. It means this same flower is receiving their pistil and the pollen of the same. So this is known as self pollination. Okay, so in the first picture that is showing to you, this is self pollination, and now in this second picture, that is cross pollination. In this cross pollination there is drawn two pictures. You see, flower number 1 and flower number 2. Then what is the difference? There is difference that two different flowers are here, but the species are same. It means if this is China rose, then this flower is also China rose, because this picture is resembling of the China rose. Now what you will find here? Here is insect. What is here? Insect. Honeybee showing here. Now you will find that two flowers of same species. It means both the species are same. Not you have to take that one China rose and another marigold. No, that is same flower, same species of different plant. You can take the example also that if this is yellow flower, and you can take that is red flower also, that of the same China rose, that will take cross pollination. Clear? So what you are finding here? Pollination is showing here by insect. It means insects moving from one flower to another flower. How? You see here their anther, that is matures, and the pollen burst out. So insect is sitting on this flower. The pollen grains will stick in their legs, and now if that will transfer or sitting to the another flower, then what will happen, that the legs will leave here, that is the pollens. Okay, now next step is what? After that, transferring the pollen. You see another picture I am showing to you, that is I am drawing what here. If this is the picture of pistil, so pollen grains will stick on the upper portion of the stigma. This is stigma, and here is ovule. So pollen germinates here. It is forming pollen tube, and that pollen is containing, the pollen is especially mostly that is round structure, and this pollen is containing the male reproductive cell. So this is transferring to the pistil of the another, and in the pistil there is ovule inside the ovary, and the pollen from this plant reaches to this plant. After that, fertilization takes place. So how it will be seen? That fertilization takes place inside the ovary. So what is the difference between the cross pollination and the self pollination? It is very clear. You see again, pollen grains are transferred either from another to flower to the stigma of the same flower in the self pollination, or the flower on different plant of the same kind. Okay, You see here that is same kind. What is the meaning of same kind? It means same flower. Species is the same but plant is different. Okay? That's why it is given to you. That is two different flower of same kind. Understood? Now, next your topic is here pollinators in nature. What is the meaning of pollinators? Pollinators are the agents. Okay? Pollinators are agents. And what are the agents? For cross pollination, the agent that is air and water is also agent. And here is some animals like honeybee insect, butterfly insect, the bird also, bats also. These are pollinators. Okay? These are pollinators. Now, what is the function of the pollinators? Just like in the above picture, you studied that transfer of pollen grains through insect here. Here is also the insect, bees, butterfly, that is bird also. If the bird is sitting on this flower and again after in the bird's wing or the legs, the pollen grains that stick then transfer to, if the bird is sitting on this plant, then pollen grain will transfer to this plant. Okay, so these are the pollinators. Bats also. You should know that pollen grains are very lightweight. Very lightweight. Now see here. Some pollen grains are shown to you in this your book and you must draw it. What is here? Pollen grains of some flowering plants, that is, see in this box what is the shape and size of the pollen grains in this box. Okay, now in this is another type of the pollen grains, spiny outside, and you will find in some plants the pollen grains are like this, you see here, and here is also oval in shape. So what you are watching here, that pollen grains are different in different plants. Okay, so what you have to know here, below the picture of these pollinators, that is nature, that look very carefully. Pollen grains are very light and microscopic in size. They contain male reproductive cell. They contain male reproductive cell. Each pollen grains has distinctive outer wall that is tough and resistance to decay. Okay, patterns present on this outer wall are distinctive of species of plant. As I told to you that pollen of different plant is different. Their outermost layer is very tough, and in this picture what is showing, spiny, and this is containing the reproductive cell. Okay, and this is male reproductive cell. So pollinators has a great role. Why pollinators? Attracting to the flower. See, dear children, here is the petal. Petals are colorful. Why we are very much attractive towards the flower? Because flowers are colorful, and due to the colorful nature, due to their flavor, insects attract, and due to attraction, the cross pollination is done. And this is for flower benefit, that after that fertilization will take place, then formation of the seed will takes place. Okay, so these structures you must draw in your notebook. What is, you will put the heading about self pollination and cross pollination. In same page you will draw the picture of self pollination and cross pollination. In next page of your plain page in your practical notebook, that is pollinators in nature. Put heading, that is pollinators in nature. Then you draw one by one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and write the name. Like that also you draw the picture of pollen grains of flowering plant. Okay, so these are the different shapes. 1, 2, 3 and 4. These 4 types of the pollen you must draw in your notebook. Understood? Now here is another, that wind pollinated flower. I told you pollinators are the insects, pollinating agents are what? Wind and water. Sometimes you will find that if the plant is aquatic, it means survive in water, then what will happen? That is, water will be the agent for transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. You see in this flower, it is very clear. What is here? See that petals. These are petal, and here is stem, and that is pedicel. It is given to your stem because stem is the attachment for the flower. And carpel. Carpel is showing that is pistil. Stamen, and this is anther. This anther is producing what? The pollen grains. Nectary. This is, here is nectar, because in nectar some juice present, and if the bird or the insect sit on this flower, they sucks the nectar, sucks the juice of the nectar. Clear? So very clear what is the meaning of nectar, stamen, male part of the flower, carpel, that is female part of the flower showing here, and insect pollinated flower here is given nectary. Because how can you find that this is insect pollinated flower? Because nectar is present here, and if nectar is present here, automatically that insect will attract to suck the juice of the insect nectar. Understood? Now next is your step after the structure of flower, pollination, and self pollination and cross pollination, then pollinators in the nature, the structure of pollen grains, and here is showing the nectar of the flower. What is the use of the nectar? It is clear to all of you. Wind pollinating flower, it means the wind is responsible for the transfer of pollen grains, as you studied in the dispersal of seed, like that. So what is the next step? That next step is your, that is fertilization. You see here, what is the meaning of fertilization? Pollen grains germinate when they fall on the stigma of the flower of the same species. Just now I discussed to you that when stigma, you will see the stigma, then stigma is sticky in nature and pollen grains that are attached on this stigma. Then pollen grains starts to germinate. Okay, that's why it is showing to you. Fall on the stigma of the flower of the same species. A pollen tube is produced and reaches to a ovule. The male and female reproductive cell called as gamete. It means male gamete and female gamete that fuse in this central portion, that is ovary. Again I am showing to you that if this is the stigma and this is showing to the ovary, and ovary contains ovule, and here the pollen grains are here, germinate and fuse it to the ovule. Clear? Now, so these dark words that are very very important for you, that is gamete, fuse to form zygote. This is zygote. Now after that fusion of the male and female gamete inside the ovary, that is, the process is called as fertilization. So what is fertilization? Listen again you all. What is fertilization? Fertilization is the process in which male gamete and female gamete fuse inside the ovary and form zygote. You see here, that is given to you, that again you see here, that is zygote. Look here, this is zygote. Now what will be the next step? After fusion, zygote is formed and zygote divides inside the ovule to form a baby plant called as embryo. This is embryo. So what is embryo? Arise here, the embryo is formed after the fertilization and zygote divides and form embryo. Now here is some points given to you. Fate of the flower after fertilization. Look here. After fertilization, the sepal, petal, stamen and stigma usually dry up and fall off. Children, you can germinate some plant and germinate some seed, and if the it will grow and put into the soil, then what you will find, that seed, that is the seed coat, and that is seed leaves that fall down like that. In the flower also, these are the petals, and below the petals the sepal is also present. It is not showing here into this, that position of sepal is here. Okay, so sepal, petal, that, and the stigma usually dry up and fall off. Next is what? Development of seed. Ovules form seed, and seed has cotyledons. Ovule forms seeds, and seed has cotyledons to store food for the future plant, that is embryo. Now the last step is what? Development of, here again, development of fruit. After fertilization, the ovary begins to grow and form fruit. The fruits may sweet, juicy like mango and orange, or they may be hard or woody like almond and walnut. Okay, so first very important definition of the fruit is that, what is fruit? Fruit is a ripened ovary. Okay, in one line always remember, fruit is ripened ovary. Now this is clear to all of you, that what is fertilization, what is zygote, and after zygote what is formed, that is embryo. Here is embryo. So these are the structures that are very necessary for you. Now it is clear to all of you.